Dude, I have no clue what I'm fucking doing. I think I've got this up like 3 times. I'm not exactly sure. Hold on, let me change this. See if I can get. I need to get another camera. Let me see. No, close that. Who the hell knows? So anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to go live because I have to do something later. So, and I just wanted to get this out because I worked on this a lot. So looks like I'm like dark. Right, hold on. Let me just open up my window. Fuck. All right. Is that better? The sun is like right in my face. All right. I think that's all right. So I'm gonna just talk about a few things. I still have to um, finish talking about Shane and just en route. But like I said, I wanted to wait and then get his sister on, and so I can get more when I have more viewers. It'll be better for me. All right. So um, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about my life and like what I've been through and how I was raised. So, um, my parents were born in the Azores. So they came here with the clothes on their backs and like they worked their way up. And uh, we, my father was very strict. We weren't allowed to do like anything. When I remember when we were in school and like say I gave out my phone number for a friend to call, and my father would change the number. So he worked 4 to 11, and I would like have people call after 4. And when I was like misbehaving, I would answer the phone from the teacher or my guidance counselor and say I was my mother. Um, my father used to lock our shoes in the closet so we couldn't go anywhere. Like, I had a fucked up life. Like, my father was very, 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 very strict. Um, I ended up rebelling and I left home when I was 18. And I met my son's father when I was in school. I was 16 years old. And we had been together for 15 years. And so while I was with him, he never had a job. He used to sell a lot of drugs, cocaine. And like my door, the cops were always raiding my house. They were always kicking down my door. Like they would be in the woods watching him. Like I had to run with a backpack filled with shit because I knew the cops were coming and just fucked up shit. So anyway, he ended up getting indicted, and he got sentenced to 8 years. And he ended up going to federal prison. And so, you feel like you're doing that time with them. It's like, you feel like you're in jail with them, like, because you can feel it. And when you talk to them, and, it's tough. Like, I stayed friends with him and I held him down and everything was good, always have his back. Always. Even to this day, I'll always have his back. But anyway, I'm a little pissed off because he has a new girlfriend, and Big Tony was my best friend, and she fucking took my best friend. So I can't talk to him anymore. Or she gets pissed. Fucking idiot. So Federal prisons went private, and it was corporations that essentially bought them out. And what they were doing is like Victoria's Secret, like parachutes for our military, license plates, flags, furniture, like the chair you're sitting on, the bed you sleeping on. That was all prisoners. That's inmates. That federal inmates were doing. It was free labor for the corporations, and then they got the profit when they sold their product or whatever. And so they like, hold on, where did I write this down? um More than 2 million people are incarcerated in the United States. This isn't the one. The federal government also has a responsibility to ensure the safe and humane treatment of those in federal criminal, all right, hold on, contracts with privately operated criminal detention facilities. The Attorney General shall not renew Department of Justice contracts with privately operated criminal detention facilities as consistent with applicable law. All right. Let's see. Functions directed, the order shall be implemented, not intended to. Okay, so this is a story from an inmate. And this inmate happened to be at Terre Haute, Indiana, when my son's father was there in 2022. And he wrote this letter. I think it was for the Marshall Project or something. And this is what he had to say. I'm not going to say his name. If it's in here, it's in here, but I don't like to say people's names. I spent more than 24 years in prison. I saw how corporations exploited people in the closed prison market. From telephone calls to commissary to labor, we were a captive audience without a say in what were often monopoly contracts. They could gouge us or offer terrible service without ever worrying about losing business. Over the years, I worked tirelessly to challenge these corporations and their practices, filing grievances and consumer complaints, and helping others do the same. Being a part of the solution offered me a sense of purpose, and the small victories always invigorated my passion. So when I was released, I was excited to work with Worth Rises as a researcher for the prison industry, mapping private sector players' report. It allowed me to continue the work I was doing on the inside, fact finding to expose the corporations exploiting people whose lives have been irreparably irreparably turned upside down by mass incarceration. Not just those behind bars, but also our families. But as I scrolled through company websites, catalogs, and earning reports, I grew angry. The profiteering runs even deeper than I imagined, and it seemed unrealistic to think that there was anything I could do to stop these corporations from preying on my people, poor people, and black and brown people. One day after I finished working, I decided I had enough. After decades of dealing with these corporations inside, I wanted it to be over and to live my life anew. I closed the computer and thought, out of sight, out of mind. But my mind never really ran quiet. One afternoon, I recalled the words of Howard Thurman: do not be silent. There is no limit to the power that may be released through you. At that moment, I realized the importance of this report and that I was not alone. By bringing these corporations and their exploitation into the light, we are part we are giving people the tools to stand up to these corporations and win. I am now part of a growing team committed to tearing down the industry. I will continue to help those whose lives have been forever changed by mass incarceration overcome exploitation and abuse at the hands of private corporations. He put his name, Robert Rose. So, this is a little bit of a background of like how all this shit started. The Federal Prison Industries is a government owned corporation that employs offenders incarcerated in correctional facilities under the Department of Justice Federal Bureau of Prisons. The FPI manufactures products and provides services that are primarily sold to executive agencies in the federal government. Although the FPI's industries are located within various federal prisons, they operate independently. The FPI was created to serve as a means for managing training and rehabilitating inmates in the federal prison system through employment in one of its six industries. The FPI's enabling legislation and the Federal Acquisition Registration require federal agencies to procure products offered by FPI unless authorized by the FPI to solicit bids from the private sector. This is commonly referred to as the mandatory source clause. The FPI may grant waivers to executive agencies if its price exceeds the current market price for comparable products. Federal agencies, however, are not required to procure services provided by the FPI. Instead, agencies are encouraged to do so pursuant to the FAR. It is the mandatory source clause and its effect on private businesses that has drawn controversy over the years. The report provides a background on the FPI's operations and statutory authority. It does not address the related debates on inmate labor, criminal rehabilitation, or competition in federal government contracting. Like when my son's father was in jail, if he didn't get up, he worked in the kitchen. I burned myself with a freaking like a thing of a cigarette butt. Um, Fucking idiot. But anyway, if he didn't get up to go to work in the morning, like he would, like they'd keep him in a cell all day. Like they would punish him if he didn't, you know what I mean? So he had like no choice. Um, Let me see. This section provides FPI. In which could the act require the attorney general to diversify the industries operated in the federal prison system in order to minimize competition with private businesses. The act allowed the attorney general to make inmate labor available to federal agencies for the purpose of engaging in federal public works projects. It also allowed the Attorney General to establish industries where inmates would produce products that would be used in federal prisons or would be sold to other federal agencies. At the same time, in response to concerns raised by private business, trade associations, and labor organizations, the act prohibited inmate made goods from being sold on the open market. The act required federal agencies to purchase products made by federal inmates if they did not exceed current market prices, where they were available for sale and met requirements. The BOP experienced difficulties implementing the authorities of Congress. Let's see, administer the board. Right? Yeah. Okay. Um, mm, mm, mm. Let's see, the past 40, starting in the 1980s, the federal prison population began a nearly unabated three three-decade increase. In FY 1980, there were approximately 24,000 inmates in federal prisons. By 1990, approximately 58,000 prisoners. By FY 2000, almost 126,000 inmates. FY 2015, over 205 thousand inmates in federal prison. The growth in the federal prison population prompted the FBI to increase the number of factories it opened so it could employ a greater number of inmates. The FBI implemented additional state of the art work state of the art production techniques, which in turn increased product offerings and created new work opportunities for inmates. The new production techniques, according to the FBI, helped better prepare inmates for post release employment. The FBI also started requiring inmates to have higher levels of literacy in order to advance beyond entry level pay status. By 1991, inmates working for FBI were required to have a high school diploma or general equivalency degree, a GED, in order to advance beyond the entry level pay grade. Well, like 25 cents a fucking hour. The FBI operates 80 factories and 3 farms in 62 federal prisons, representing 6 different business segments: agribusiness, clothing and textiles, electronics, office furniture, recycling, and services, which include data entry and coding. The FBI is intended to be economically self sustaining and does not receive funding through congressional appropriations. The FBI uses the revenue it generates to purchase raw material and equipment, pay wages to inmates and staffs, and invests in expansion of its facilities. Of the revenue generated by FBI's products and services, 72% is used to purchase raw material and equipment. 23% of funds are staff salaries, 5% of funds are inmate salaries, 5 fucking percent. Inmates earn 23 cents per hour up to a maximum of $1.15 per an hour, depending on their proficiency, educational level, and time in the position, among other things. Additionally, inmates can earn bonuses based on work performance. Under BOP's inmate financial responsibility program, all inmates who have court ordered financial obligations must use at least 50% of the FBI income to satisfy those debts. So they essentially just, use all, just you have no choice. Under current law, all physically able inmates who are not a security risk are required to work. Those inmates who are not employed by the FBI have other labor assignments in the prison. FBI work assignments are usually considered more desirable because wages are higher and they allow inmates to learn a trade. However, this is not to discount the importance of regular prison work assignments. Both regular and FBI work assignments can provide inmates with soft skills. Also, both types of work assignments can contribute to institutional order by reducing inmates' idleness. Regular prison work assignments provide for the operation and maintenance of prison facilities. Hence, these work assignments will exist as long as BOP operates prisons. The availability of FBI work assignments is more volatile. Data Data shows that the number of FBI work assignments available to inmates has not kept pace with the growing federal inmate population. There has been a noticeable decrease in the number of inmates working for the FBI since FY 2007, when the number of inmates holding FBI work assignments peaked at approximately 23,200 inmates since FY 2007. The number of inmates working for the FBI decreased to approximately 12,300 in FY 2015. The decreasing number of inmates working for the FBI, wait, employed by the FBI corresponds with the FBI's decreasing sales, which has resulted in the FBI shuttering of some factories. Remember, like when there was a stop to some products and stuff, it's because during COVID they were letting inmates out, so they didn't really have like inmate workers. And like my son's father told me that the prison people, like the officials, would like spray paint. They would get like old factories and just like they will open and they would put like beds in them, and then they would spray painted the windows so that the prisoners couldn't see the outside, the natural outdoors. Like they were bad to people, and there were nights I didn't sleep because I was concerned about him. But um the prison system can increase revenue in many ways, primarily by increasing the number of bodies behind bars. Over the years, prisons have been filled with more and more convicts of nonviolent crimes, such as possession of small amounts of illegal narcotics. Many federal laws require a minimum sentence, which can range from 5 to 15 years. If an individual is caught with a certain amount of narcotics, and the feds, like when they do like rates like by numbers, and they quantified heroin and marijuana to be like the same. I can't think of what it is. I'll think about it, whatever. Been filled with more and more convicts of nonviolent crimes. Many federal laws require a minimum sentence, which can range. I already read that. Another reason why the prison population has increased is because of three strikes laws, which means someone who commits three felonies can go to jail for life. The APS can also force prisoners to perform hard physical labor at a low cost, thus creating more revenue. Prison laborers have done a variety of work, such as creating license plates with little pay. More recently, it was discovered that in exchange for fighting wildfires in California earlier this year, inmates were paid $1 an hour or able to reduce their prison sentence. Currently, there are 2.2 million people in the APS, and each inmate brings in about $6,000 to $14,000 in revenue. Currently, the two biggest privately owned prison corporations are Corrections Corporation of America and GEO Group, which generated 2.5 billion in 2022 alone. Private prisons are surrounded by controversy. While private prisons were meant to save the government money, critics argue that inmates were treated inhumanely and seen solely as dollar signs for corporations. Another issues with the current state of APs is that funding it costs Americans over 39 billion in taxes, given the amount of money made through the APS. It strongly appears that incarceration is incentivized. Prison facilities are able to generate more revenue by charging prisoners for minuscule things like phone calls, which range from 20 cents to $1 per minute, depending on the facility. Prisons also reduce the costs of holding inmates by removing services, cleaning services, like it's saving facilities large amounts of money. Currently, many think the goals of APS are to rehabilitate inmates and help them function properly in the real world. However, the APS's high recidivism rate and methods of revenue creation support the conclusion that increasing the prison population may be the real goal of the APS. With seemingly deliberate increase in the number of inmates, reduced prison maintenance costs, higher sentences, and higher recidivism rates, it is clear that the American prison system is not in the business of rehabilitation nor punishment, but in the business of generating revenue. It's freaking driving me crazy. I don't know where my camera is that I got for I have no clue where it is because I went from downstairs to upstairs. I don't fucking know. So basically, um, for years, private prison companies have been an important partner for ICE as the government carries out its immigration agenda. ICE contracts with corporations to build and run detention facilities and to transport undocumented individuals who are in custody. The two biggest private prison companies are, and then there a GEO, and then the other one is also Core Civic. Core Civic is like big time, like down south. Um, mm, mm, mm. Let's see. Core Civic reported a total revenue of 538.2 million during the company's second quarter, an almost 10% increase from the same time period in 2024. GEO Group, ICE's largest contractor, reported second quarter revenue of 636.2 million, a 5% increase over the same time period last year. Core Civic CEO and director Damon Henninger told investors during the August 7th earnings call that the new budget bill is a pivotal moment for funding related to our industry. Similarly, GEO Group founder and executive chairman of the board, George Zoley, told investors on their August 6th call, given the intrinsic value of our assets and the unprecedented growth opportunities, we anticipate we will material what we anticipate materializing over the balance of this year and next year. We believe that our current equity valuation offers an attractive opportunity for investors. Does this go? This fucking thing. I like it, but then I don't like it. Okay. That's a little better. All right. I think. Yeah, that's fine. Let's see. CEO Group is also advertising that it has almost 6,000 idle beds. I don't like that. Why am I like a weirdo? All right, that's good. GEO Group is also advertising that it has almost 6,000 idle beds, meaning beds across multiple facilities that are not currently in use by any state or federal agency for ICE or the U.S. Marshal Service to use if needed. The company also has an additional 5,000 beds that can be created on a temporary or permanent basis at existing facilities. GEO Group has also become a pivotal partner for the administration in transporting and ultimately removing people from the United States. GEO Group's transportation subsidiary, GTI, is the largest provider of ground and air transportation for ICE. GEO Group expects that more removal flights could produce an additional 40 to 50 million in annual revenue for GTI. That's fucking insane. This summer, following the elimination of those oversight bodies, ICE denied numerous members of Congress access to detention facilities and field offices as they attempted to check on conditions for detainees, even though federal law provides members of Congress the legal right to do so. And just last week, 11 Democratic elected officials were arrested in Manhattan after they demanded access to cells in a federal building where ICE houses migrants, and members of Congress are pushing back. On July 30th, a dozen members of the U.S. House of Representatives sued the Trump administration, seeking to ensure they are granted access to detention facilities even without prior notice. It's fucked up. I gotta go pee. Mm. Ethical. I'll read that when I get back. Um, yeah, I'll read the spot. I have to use the facilities. And then when we're done with this, I want to read some comments that I found on like Reddit and shit. Basically, private prisons are making these inmates like make mad money, and like they were committing suicide during COVID. Um, there's a couple of inmates that my son's father knew committed suicide because they were they were used to their routines, and then when they were locked down for COVID and stuff, and it couldn't get back into their routines, like it just fucked with their head. And like the place, my son's father was like, they don't even give you soap. The same mask that they had, like they got one mask and they had to use it like it was they got once a week. There were so many things that he couldn't get in commissary. It was fucking insane. Like he couldn't call. I didn't know if he was dead or not. But you know, it it fucked up. There's death row prisoners there. While my son's father was there, they executed two guys. And he said that the prison goes total lockdown. All the phones shut off. Everything like locked down when they're executed. And he said that like the inmates know because it gets like so quiet. He was like, it was fucked up. He's like, you could just feel it. You knew that someone was getting executed. And like someone tried to stab him in his head. It's just fucked up shit, man. I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back. Hold on. I don't know. Okay. I gotta mow the fucking lawn. I'll do it later. I I don't know, but my eyes like water with the light and stuff. I have to have like my windows in my Jeep like blacked out. I get a letter from my doctor because my eyes start watering. It's fucked up. Let me see. What did he say? That's what he said basically. But yeah, I've lived my entire life like dealing with prisoner jails, like get going in and out, freaking every week for visiting time, and just fucking pain in the ass. It would seem like every 6 months he was getting arrested for something, and it's just fucked up. It's just fucked up. So I just wanted to talk about um, there was a kid, Joseph Perry, a guy who died the same night that Shane Stiflin overdosed in his cell. The guy's name was Joseph Perry, and his death was ruled a homicide. And Rachel Rollins said that the police used force appropriately when they took the man into custody after he was allegedly trying to sexually assault a woman on Mass Ave. Perry, 49, died 6 days after being brought to the D4 station in the South End on July 14th of 2019. His family has been searching for answers. No one, not even the medical examiner, would tell them what happened until they started asking questions. Perry's brother said that Joseph was badly bruised with lacerations along his head. The machine was keeping him alive. Where's my shit? The machine was keeping him alive. There were bruises everywhere, every possible place where a person has extremities. Hey, Junior. I'm just talking to you two. According to the medical examiner's autopsy report, Perry died from lack of oxygen and blood to his brain and a heart attack after being subdued and restrained by police. The medical examiner also found that he had acute cocaine intoxication and heart disease. It was ruled a homicide, but Rachel Rollins said that the force used was not excessive, considering the seriousness of the alleged crime that police interrupted and the resistance that Perry put up. Rollins said that Perry was non-compliant. Ultimately, they ended up getting his feet restrained and they handcuffed him. Rollins said that when police arrived on Mass Ave, that Perry was involved in a fight with another with other men, and then became combative with the police. But they said that he allegedly was sexually assaulting a woman. Like, which one is it? Perry was taken to District 4 station. While he was in the prisoner's transport van, he began harming himself. Now, why would they say he was in a transport van and not a cruiser? Because they were trying to hide the fact that there was blood all inside that cruiser. And so they said that he was in a transport van, which is bullshit because D4, it's not, they don't use transport vans in that area necessarily. It was said that he was agitated and sweating. He banged his head up against the inside of the wagon, causing a profuse amount of blood and bleeding to come from his face. The police went in and brought him out after their request for him to come out voluntarily, and that did not happen. After that, he began to self-harm. Rollins said that there was no asphyxiation. There was no breakage of the trachea or anything that had been restraint regarding his throat or his ability to breathe. Fucking, are you educated, bitch? Rollins said that the use of force was justified. Perry was one of 3 men in Boston custody who died within a 3-month period that year after arriving at the South End station. Shane Stiflin died the same day. So I found other prisoners too that were just recently killed, well, in custody. It was the Stevenson King, Jamil El Kasim, Kareem, Deshaun Cole, Terrence Coleman, Kirk Figueroa, Peter Fanfan. Those guys all died since, I think it was 2022. Let's see, the 26-man unit J1 at SBCC, Supermax prison in Shirley, Mass, where they were finishing lunch. There was one guard in the unit named David Lonergan. 2 guards were assigned to J1 on that shift, but the other officer, Michael Kasparzak, left the unit at 11:40 to cover Chow in another unit. J1 is a protective custody unit. The men who live there eat their meals in their cells. At the end of lunch, they come out of their cells to return the food trays. Make that make sense? 1 or 2 spoke with Lonergan about arranging afternoon recreation and then went to their cells. As the doors slid shut, a man named Joseph Druce slipped into cell 2 and waited for the lock to click. Cell 2 was the home of a defrocked priest named John Geoghegan. Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center was the newest prison in Massachusetts. Barbed wire blockhouses constructed across America in the 1990s. That's what it was like. The Mass DOC's website describes SBCC. It follows. Yeah, fuck, that's bullshit. Let's see. Keyless entry. Okay. Joseph Druce was serving a life sentence for first-degree murder. Druce had been in prison since 1989 and had recently come to the protective custody unit at SBCC following 49 months in the DDU. Get down, Milo. No. Get down. Get out of here. Go. Get out of here. Following 49 months in the DDU. Lay down. Get the fuck out of here. At the DDU at State Prison in Walpole, a super isolation unit where prisoners convicted of major disciplinary violations are cut off from all human contact for up to 10 years at a time. The DDU is known for driving men mad. Druce had an extensive assaultive history, both in and out of prison, and had at times done serious harm to himself. Part of Druce's defense at his murder trial was that his male victim, who was beaten and strangled, had sexually propositioned him. When Geoghegan's cell door locked, Druce jimmied it shut by jamming a paperback book into its upper track and a pair of nail clippers in the lower track. The ability to jam doors at SBCC from the inside is the result of a design defect and has been known to staff and prisoners since shortly after the prison opened. He then took a sock. He had the inside his shirt, wrapped it around Geoghegan's neck, and strangled him. until he lost consciousness. While Giogen was on the floor, Druce repeatedly jumped on him and from the bed, breaking all of his ribs and crushing the old man's chest. The guard did not see Druce enter the cell. He was alerted to problem in cell 2 by tear runners, two men who remained out of their cells when the others locked in order to clean and perform other chores on the unit. It took the emergency team about 7 minutes to get the cell door open. They were successful only after they persuaded Druce to partially unjam the door, which he did not. He did not do until he was sure that Georgian, that's the priest, was dead. Fuck it. The dude was doing life. Might as well kill the pedophile. All right. So I found some shit on Reddit. Hold on. What is it? All right. All right. This right here. I found this. It says Higgins antagonized John and told him to go to 34 Fairview to settle a score. That's clear in the waterfall video. Colin landed the last, if not the first punch. We know that because Steve Scanlon told David Yannetti that the day Karen was arrested, that he had direct knowledge of John's injuries, which later checked out, and told him Brian Albert and his nephew killed John. Everyone hid the fact that Colin was there and he wasn't named in Proctor's report, even though others who were at the house and left before John and Karen pulled up were named. At the grand jury, months later, Brian Albert admitted that Colin was there, but he left before John and Karen pulled up. Why wasn't that disclosed sooner? Why'd Colin and Allie's come pick me up text get turned over in the form of an unauthenticated screenshot? Why did Life 360 put them at the school before going to his house and put her house at 1:30 when she claims she got there at 12:30? John wasn't supposed to die, and nobody wanted Colin sent to prison for 20 years over a drunken fight, even if he was an entitled asshole delinquent. I imagine this is what went down that night. John's Apple Health data recorded him going up and down 3 flights of stairs from 12:22 to 12:24. 12:21, Karen and John pull up in front of 34 Fairview, followed by Ryan Nagel +2. Shielded by large vehicles in the driveway, John quickly runs in the house, and the occupants of the truck are chatting with one another or looking at their phones, so they don't notice inside. They don't notice. Inside, John immediately goes downstairs to the basement. One flight. He sees Brian and Colin waiting for him, and turns around, climbing back up the stairs, thinking, "Oh, hell no." 2 flights. Someone yells, "Where you going, pussy? Come back." Provoked by the challenge, he turns and goes back down again. 3 flights. Wham! Higgins lands a punch. Blood gushes from John's nose. Side note, blood on his shirt, jeans, boxers, and shoes are inconsistent with the CW's theory, which claims his head gash occurred immediately following the collision and includes no explanation for his bloody nose dripping down his upright body. John punches Higgins back, and then wham, Colin clocks him. Chloe jumps up and barely gets a hold of his arm. Higgins grabs her collar. John pulls away and loses his balance as Chloe releases her grip. He falls backwards, hits his head on some gym equipment, and loses consciousness. As the minutes tick by, He loses nearly 3 pints of blood, has a seizure, and vomits due to a brain injury. Colin worries what could happen if John wakes up and presses charges. Brian Albert goes into fixer mode to protect his nephew, and who landed what was ultimately the final blow, and who's supposed to start college in the fall. He can't have his whole life based on how something he's losing. The puddles slowly creeping towards the center of the room, based on how much blood he was losing. The puddles slowly creeping toward the center of the room. Brian Albert tells Colin to slip out through the bulkhead door. He says, "Call Allie to pick you up. Have her bring you a change of clothes. Put your bloody ones in the dumpster behind the school and go home. If anyone asks, we'll say you were never here." Brian tells Higgins to go get a Faraday bag from CPD, considers his options, and thinks, "I've got Kevin and Lank and CPD and Chip Proctor at MSP. I've helped them out before and they owe me one. If there's one thing cops know how to do, it's cover each other's asses." 4 a.m., Brian and Higgins put John on top of his phone at the edge of the lawn so they can say he never came in the house and blame the snowplow. When Jen, Karen, and Kerry find him, Brian Albert calls Lank. He says, "Hey man, I need you to do something for me. Some shit went down last night and CPD's headed here. Can you get here ASAP and take the lead? Just make sure we don't get dragged into this. Because there's a guy on my lawn in bad shape and it looks bad, but he never came in the house, all right?" It wouldn't be the first time he helped the Alberts in a crisis. Lank says, "Shit. All right, yeah, you got it, man. Give me a few minutes to figure some things out, and I'll be there. Unlock your front door and lay low till I get there." That sounds like. Then I found, long story short, Brian and Colin Albert beat the shit out of O'Keefe to near death in the basement, threw him outside in freezing cold temps, and let their dog out on him to finish it off. If you can't tell that by now, you're just stupid. I know someone who went to UMass Amherst, and Colin went up to visit and party one weekend in 2022 before shit started to hit the fan, and pretty much admitted this is what happened. Then I found this thing with the Post Commission, with BPD. BPD has some problems. The Post Commission's data shows that BPD has 51 officers pending discipline, far more than any other law enforcement agency in the state. This number is calculated on the officer level, meaning one officer may account for multiple pending instances, according to the agency. The average number of days that discipline is pending for these BPD cases is 119 days. Enrique Zuniga, executive director of the Post Commission, told investigative reporter Ted Daniel Boston is at the top consistently. By comparison, the Cambridge Police Department currently has 5 instances where discipline is pending. Yeah, baby Cambridge. Porterville is pending, with the average delay sitting at approximately 123 days. That's though one significantly longer case skews the average, which drops to 59 days without it. The Massachusetts State Police currently have 2 instances pending. Two? Mass State Police, the biggest gang in Massachusetts, 2 instances? Oh, fuck you. With an average delay of just 37 days. I got it. Hold on. I gotta turn on my camera. Fuck. I gotta get that dog to stop barking like that. So what's going on? Nothing. What the fuck? Shut the fuck up, yo. Oh, it's just Manny. Okay. Hang on. Fucking dog. All right. So let's see. The Massachusetts State Police currently have 2 instances pending with an average delay of just 37 days. I don't fucking believe that. Pittsfield also has 2 instances pending. Zuniga, whose commission was established in 2020 as part of the state's criminal justice reform legislation, noted that the time between an investigation's conclusion and the officer receiving discipline can be very long period. The delays also have a financial impact on taxpayers. Sometimes those administrative leaves are paid leaves, Zuniga noted. And that's an officer off the street that's just sitting at home and getting paid. That's not good use of public resources. I get downvoted anytime I ask or mention this, but everyone is here criticizing the courts and seeming to imply that the police arrests are all perfect. While oftentimes when I read one of their press releases about another gun arrest, their account of the story sounds like a terrible case. About 8:35 p.m., a sergeant detective was on patrol in the area of Dudley Street when she observed an operator of a parked vehicle retrieve a crossbody bag from the engine block of the vehicle. The supervisor made further observations of the vehicle traveling towards 18 Greenville Street and parked in the private lot. Okay, he has a bag, sure, but no mention of a gun or something resembling the shape of a gun. Additional units were requested to respond to conduct a further investigation. Officers observed that the vehicle was parked in the last spot in front of several trash dumpsters. Officers could see numerous visible posted signs: no parking, no trespassing, and dumpster rules, residents only. If it's in a private lot, it's not the police's job to enforce parking rules there. And even if it was their job, that's still a civil infraction at most and not a criminal act. If you or me call the police to report someone parked on our property, they tell us it's a civil matter and to call a towing company. Well, the operator was seen outside of the driver's side door, and the officers immediately recognized him from past encounters. The officers made contact with the front passenger of the vehicle and knew that both occupants were not residents of the building. So, conclusory, just conclusion evidence, unless they had articulable reason to stop them. Examples: knowing he has an active warrant, or knowing that they had an active trespassing warning from the property, or just because they knew they weren't residents, doesn't automatically mean they didn't have a reason to be there. If it was in an apartment complex, they could have been invited there by a resident. And I'm pretty sure the police can't be their own complainant for trespassing. So the officers requested, fucking shit. Hold on. I gotta watch that. I see what these fucking dogs are doing. All right. So Officers requested the operator to step to the rear of the vehicle, and a pat frisk was conducted. Officers located a firearm that was inside the crossbody bag that was seen on the top of the driver's seat. Both occupants were placed into handcuffs, and District B2 detectives were requested to respond. The firearm was later determined to be a Glock 26 with 1 round in the chamber and 9 rounds in the magazine. And they beat the fucking shit out of the guy, I guess. Wait, there's another one here. Guys, I wanted to post some funny content because the info on this page is: after going over thousands of files and testimony over the past several years provided by former and active officers and deputies, my heart truly hurts for those abused by the system, sexually abused by officers, lied to, stolen from, and trampled. I want to make light-hearted jokes, and I have tried, but really, my mind feels so heavy with these thoughts. I sent 2 sets of information to Virginia State Parole and also to the FBI today. My time, so yesterday, your time. What will happen after this, I am unsure. Dennis Blanks is an officer of the law that has messed with kids. Half of law enforcement is involved in the drug trade in Halifax, and half of the justice system is bouncing between coke and meth. Half of that 25% have been caught, and it's been swept under the rug. The officers, other officers, while in their position as officers on the Sheriff's Department in South Boston Police Department funded, provided, and attended parties filled with underage partygoers from 14 to 20. These are not simple mistakes. These are not people who messed up once. These are people who reported their actions again and again and faced no consequences. And he, former police officer. And then we got, for in America, famously, and white racism has been. The Carol Stewart case is the perfect rebuttal to Brian Albert's conspiracy nonsense. In the Stewart case, the truth was an open secret. In my opinion, that could well be what's going on here, considering what the anonymous source told Yannetti. And then someone responded, "That's a good point. I'm glad to see that Massachusetts residents are not buying the claim that a conspiracy is impossible because it would involve 50 people. It's both depressing and encouraging that Chaos case is now added to Birchmore, Fitzsimmons, and other cases, so that the way the police and DAs and judges operate is now very exposed." One thing that is pretty chilling is that if you go back and listen to the reporting on KR's case before Turtle Boy, it is relentlessly biased in favor of the McAlberts. The reporting is atrocious, sensationalist, and virulently sexist. Wow. What's that one? Hold on. Let me see if I got any more. Another crooked cop is still being paid the big bucks. Timothy Kervin. An internal investigation revealed 191 instances of payroll abuse by BPD Lieutenant Timothy Kervin. Despite this, Kervin was the highest paid city employee in 2019, making $355,538.70. Wow. TLDR, I'm Jane Doe, sharing my story about systemic abuse and injustice I faced in Boston during a mental health crisis in March of 2021. Police entered my home without a warrant, assaulted me, and exposed me to humiliation. Despite filing a pro se lawsuit, the city obstructs justice by withholding evidence and delaying investigations. I'm asking for legal advice, accountability, and support. I'll release all evidence on December 23rd of 2024 to expose the cops and their 4-year cover-up. The fuck is this one? Oh shit, here's the case number. I'm gonna look that up. What the fuck? Nearly half of the 20 highest paid Boston police officers have disciplinary records with the State Police Oversight Commission. Yeah, exactly. State Police Oversight Commission. In some cases, with multiple sustained complaints or have been named defendants in civil or criminal proceedings, a Globe review has found. For example, Captain Hasib Hussein, the city's second highest paid worker last year, 408,826 had 10 misconduct complaints sustained against them from 2020 to 2024, according to data from the Massachusetts State Police Officer Standards and Training Commission, which was established in 2020 as part of a sweeping police accountability bill. The complaints involved infractions related to details, untruthfulness, warning shots and signals, negligent duty, and unreasonable judgment, conduct unbecoming, and conformance to laws, records show. Hussein was also suspended in May of 2019 for alleged infractions that were related to overtime. Records from the Oversight Commission show Hussein ultimately had 2 sustained complaints that year for negligent duty and unreasonable judgment. Neither the Boston Police Department nor the unions for the department detectives and superior officers responded to requests for comments. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to leave it like this. I'm going to try it. I'll charge my pad and use the other camera, but I'm just going to go. I'm not going to set anything up. I'm just going to go live when I go live because I set up the thing, right? And I don't know how to click it and go live from that. So I go and I start a new live because I don't know how to begin the one that I set up. So I have to like play with Google or something. All right. I'll finish all this later. There's a lot about BPD shit. And Haverhill Police, they hired 7 new officers. So, all right. I hope you people share my shit, and I will probably pop up later. Bye. Have a good day.